Last week, Sigma announced the release of two new lenses for Sony mirrorless cameras. In my last video, I took a look at the 90mm f2.8 DGDN lens, whereas in today's video, I'm going to be seeing what all the fuss is about with this brand new 24mm f2 DGDN contemporary lens. So before we dive into the specs, we need to quickly talk about Sigma's I series range of lenses, which officially came into being last year with the release of the 35mm f2, the 65mm f2, and one lens that people often forget about, the 24mm f3.5. Now, whether this f2 lens will officially replace the f3.5 version later on down the line, that is yet to be seen. But for now, all I know is that we've got two small, lightweight 24mm lenses, and I personally want to find out which one of these is the best to pick. So in terms of build, both of these lenses are extremely well made, featuring a full metal build, fancy magnetic lens cap, an MF to AF switch, and a manual aperture dial that can be switched to auto mode so that it functions more like a regular lens, allowing you to adjust the aperture using the back of your camera instead. Although both lenses are extremely small and very lightweight, when placed side by side, the f2 version is very slightly bigger due to its larger maximum aperture, but there really isn't that much difference between these two lenses. Although neither of these lenses feature internal dust or splash proofing, they do include a rubber seal around the metal lens mount to help prevent moisture and dust entering the camera. Both lenses feature a textured metal focus ring that's nice and smooth to rotate with no noticeable lag or delay, meaning that they're great for refining critical focus in manual focus mode or performing focus pulls when recording in video mode. At launch, this new lens will be priced at £549 or $669, whereas currently on Amazon you can get the f3.5 version for £479 or $549. So with not much separating these two lenses, I think it's only fair to give both of these lenses a point for price. When it comes to build and handling, again, they are so closely matched, so I think both lenses deserve a point here too. In good lighting conditions, both lenses were quick to focus with no signs of hunting. I would actually say that the f3.5 lens was slightly quicker to lock on focus, but that's not to say that the f2 option is by any means slow. In low light conditions, the AF speed with both of these lenses slowed ever so slightly, but again, neither lens showed any signs of hunting. In these now darker conditions, the f2 lens was able to lock on focus ever so slightly faster than the f3.5, but that's fairly unsurprising seeing as it has the wider maximum aperture of f2. When taking photos of Alice walking towards the camera, shooting wide open at the lens's respective maximum apertures, the f2 lens provided a near faultless performance, with the overwhelming majority of the shots being sharp and in focus. Now, personally, I thought the f3.5 lens would clean up here, seeing as it has a wider maximum aperture and therefore a larger plane of sharp focus. But rather surprisingly, the results showed that a significant number of the photos were ever so slightly soft. So with this in mind, when it comes to scoring, the new f2 lens is deserving of the point in this round. Switching over to video mode, both lenses were able to track Alice walking towards the camera at a regular pace, even when shooting wide open. Repeating this test but at a faster pace yielded the same exact results, with both lenses managing to keep locked on throughout the test. In terms of AF noise, both lenses are generally pretty quiet, besides a slight purring noise that was picked up by the camera's built-in microphone. Both lenses unfortunately suffer from focus breathing, so this might be a bit of a turn-off for videographers who hate this kind of thing. When it comes to flaring, the f3.5 lens comes out on top, providing the best results with noticeably less ghosting and artifacting when compared directly to the f2 version. Though I should note that both lenses do come included with a solid metal lens hood, which should help reduce flaring if this is something you really want to avoid. So at the end of this round, I'm going to give both of these lenses a point as they performed really well when shooting in video mode. If big old juicy bokeh balls are your thing, then the f2 lens is definitely the version for you, as the f3.5 lens creates noticeably smaller orbs of light. Though that said, when looking towards the edges of the frame, the f2 orbs do turn into a noticeable cat's eye shape, whilst the f3.5 lens manages to maintain more rounded balls of light across the entire image. In terms of general bokeh quality, the f2 provides a much thicker background blur when compared to the f3.5, which is pretty unsurprising because, you know, physics. So at the end of this round, round, the f2 lens picks up yet another point. Shooting our lens chart wide open at these lenses' respective maximum apertures, you can immediately see that the results created by the f2 lens has more curves to it than Kim Kardashian's big old booty. The f3.5 on the other hand has next to no lens distortion at all. Zooming into the center, and the sharpness and contrast of these lenses is incredibly similar. If I was being super critical, I would say that the f3.5 is a fraction sharper, but really not much in it at all. At the corners, it's the same story really, with both lenses displaying the same impressive edge-to-edge sharpness. Shooting wide open at the lens's minimum focusing distances, we should first talk about the fact that the f3.5 has the ability to shoot insanely close up. Like the ability to photograph a gnat's cock close up. And I should know because I've already tried taking a picture of something of a very similar size. However, shooting at these distances does compromise the image quality, with both lenses now producing softer images with ghosting and coloured fringing. On our longitudinal chromatic aberration test, both lenses fared pretty well, with the f2 lens showing a touch of green fringing at the top and magenta at the bottom of the frame, whilst the f3.5 lens showed some dark green fringing at the top and red colouring below the area of sharp focus. When shooting out in the field with these lenses, both are capable of creating beautiful imagery with razor sharpness and bags of contrast. Neither of these lenses displayed any evidence of colour casting either, so all of my images featured true to life colours straight out of the camera. Now, shooting portraits at 24mm isn't something I would often choose to do, though that being said, I really did enjoy using both of these lenses. The fact that they can focus so close up provides plenty of creative opportunities to play around with the unique distortion that this focal length generates. I've got to admit though, the additional subject separation that the f2 lens creates made it my favourite of the two. Although the difference is fairly subtle, I'm a huge sucker for nicely blurred backgrounds, so my preference will always be to pick a lens that offers the nicest bokeh. With all of that being said, when it comes to scoring for image quality, I think that when we take into consideration the lens chart images and also the real life images that I've just shown you, it just goes to show that there just really isn't enough to separate these two options, with both lenses being more than capable of capturing striking looking images. So in this final round, both lenses deserve a point, though unfortunately for the f3.5 lens, this isn't quite enough to see it across the finish line, and the f2 option takes the win in this head-to-head test. This new Sigma 24mm f2 is a brilliant little lens that's immaculately built, provides top quality AF, and also gives images that are tack sharp from edge to edge. So if you're sat there toying between which of these Sigma options you should go for, then my recommendation would be to spend the extra $100 or so and just get the newer version. But the next question is this new Sigma better than its closest rival, namely the Zeiss 25mm f2? Well, next week I'll be putting these two lenses head to head to find out just that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on that one.